I tried reading 7 books in 7 days. How'd I do? First, let's take it back to the beginning and why I wanted to do this. I wanted to learn more things about how to be better at my job, how to have a better habit system, and just overall improve my career and professional development. Before this, I had only read half a nonfiction professional development book in 2020, and the year before that, I had read maybe 1.5. So I decided that I'm going to kickstart myself off by reading 7 books in 7 days, or at least try to. The plan was to read 7 books in 7 days, not necessarily 1 book each day, but at the end of the 7 days cumulative, I would have hopefully read 7 books. All of them had to do something with either helping me get better at my job, helping me get better at my craft, helping me something with the business, or helping me just be a better worker. Only 3 of them are allowed to be audiobooks, and they had to all be over 200 pages, or at least average over 200 pages. Now, before I get into the full story of how the week went and whether or not I succeeded or failed, I just want to let you guys know that if you're interested in understanding, unlocking, and unleashing the power of video, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and check out all the other videos on this channel. But let's get on with how this week went and whether or not I failed or succeeded. Day 1 started out Monday afternoon with Stories That Stick by Kindra. I started with this one first because I really enjoy this topic. This book talks about why stories are a great and effective communication tool and selling tool. And it teaches you how to formulate a story and gather stories so that you can use them to your advantage when they're selling or communicating a message. And this is kind of my whole thesis of this channel, and the thing that I tell to my customers is storytelling leads to stronger selling. I even have it on my business cards, which I also use as my bookmarks. And I figured that the book would help me with both my own personal storytelling for my own channel and marketing, but also for that of my clients. I then also started listening to my first audiobook, which was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And speaking of audiobooks, this video is brought to you by, no, I'm just kidding. So at the end of the day, because I kind of started late, I finished the day without finishing a whole book. But it was a good day because I did enjoy both books. Day 2, I finally finished Stories That Stick and thoroughly enjoyed the book. The book itself actually used a lot of stories, which, of course, if she's going to sell you on it, she's going to use a lot of it herself. But she uses stories to tell you and sell you why stories are great. There's meta stories in those stories, and I thought it was really well written. I also continued listening to Atomic Habits while taking walks outside. It's amazing how much information and words you can process per minute by listening to things at 2 times the speed or 3 times the speed. I can listen much faster than I can read. I also started the book The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes on day 2. It was okay, but I found it a little bit hard to read. And the structure of it wasn't as attention-holding as Stories That Stick. And that's because I hadn't realized that this book was published out in 2007, which explains why, even though that there's good advice on how to lead a sales team, there's no mention of like social media in selling or anything like that. And I think I really would have enjoyed that book a lot more if it was actually the 2000s. But on to day 3. I was behind on my reading because I had also had to accomplish other daily tasks and weekly tasks that I had set out to do, so I knew I was a little bit behind, but I felt like I had some time. I got around to finishing listening to Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I thought it was quite good. The book talks about how to build good habits and why your habits are actually the things that are even more important than the goals that you set out. I think he said something like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Also, the book itself, the layout of the audiobook, it was very well structured, so if I ever wanted to go back and reference anything, because it's not text-based, it's audio-based, all of the chapters' headings are there and it's easy to follow and easy to reference back to. Now, even though I hadn't finished this book, I decided to start a new book. This is the Sales Bible by Gitomer. I decided to read 2 books at once to see if it helps me read any faster because I won't be as bored. That's just a theory. A game theory. But this book was actually quite good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And even though this edition of the book was published back in 2008, the original one was, I think, published back in the 90s. But I figured because they keep updating it, that must mean that there's probably something that lets it stick around, you know? And the way the book is structured is great because it is basically just a collection of articles that is really helpful and easy to reference back to. That was the end of day 3. Now on to day 4. We don't talk about day 4. On to day 5. Now, I had only finished 2 books so far and was only 40% through 2 more books, but I had started listening to another book called Superfans by Pat Flynn. Now, if you guys don't know Pat Flynn, he is a podcaster and YouTuber. He runs a podcast called Smart Passive Income, and he's kind of like this leader of the smart passive income group of people who are the age of internet entrepreneurs, and he's kind of like that second wave of podcasters. And I had consumed some of his content already, so I figured I'd check out one of his books. And it was pretty good, but most of the stuff you could kind of get if you had dug through his content archives enough and then sort of pieced it together, but they did package it in a nice one single audiobook, so I guess that was nice and a good reason to buy it. I do wish that they had structured the audiobook a little bit better, because when I was there, all I saw was chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to chapter 30, and I didn't see any subheadings. I don't know if this was something by Audible, but this book does also come with a companion course, a free course for anyone who buys the book, so I guess that makes up for it. Day 6 now, I had to really crunch down to read as much as I can, and even though I thought it was a good idea to maybe try to start a new book called Sound Effects Bible by Viers, I figure I should focus on finishing the 2 books that I had already started. Plus I figured some of this stuff would have been a refresher anyway, so maybe I should finish the other 2 books first. Now, I didn't finish Ultimate Sales Machine or the Sales Bible, but I did finish the audiobook Superfans, so I guess that leaves day 7. It was crunch time, and I basically spent the whole day reading. In the late afternoon, in the evening, I had read so much that I got into the Sales Bible and finished that book. I started a new audiobook, which was The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and I binge listened to that while I was eating, while I was washing the dishes. It's a good book. I do recommend it. It's about overcoming resistance for artists and writers. It's aimed at writers, but really anyone who is an entrepreneur or a creative, I do kind of recommend the book, although he can get kind of dogmatic at some places, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It is a very short book though. And right at the end of the night, I managed to finish the Ultimate Sales Machine, and I was going to start the Sound Effects Bible, but it turned out that the clock had passed midnight. So no, I had failed the challenge. I had failed to read 7 books in 7 days. In total, I managed to read about 6-ish books out of 7. I think the issue was that I didn't plan properly in advance what books that I wanted to read, how many pages they had, how I could break down chapters I could read for each day and what chapters I can listen to for each day, and then properly plan the amount of hours that it would take for each day, and then add a little bit of a buffer room that leaves room for life that happens, or, you know, other tasks in the day that might come up. But if you guys have seen my previous challenge video where I tried to make 5 videos a week for 5 weeks, you'll know that even though I fail, I find that I still sometimes succeed. So how did I succeed this challenge even though I actually technically failed? Well, I did say that in the beginning of the year, I had only read about half a nonfiction self-help book. And in the past week, I was able to manage to finish 6 books. That's like 1 for each month of this past year. And the goal of this challenge, the true purpose behind the challenge, was to improve myself, was to improve my business, and to learn things. And yeah, I definitely learned a lot of things. So I guess in that case, you could say I did actually succeed. Now that the challenge is done, I think I won't be going back to 1 book a day. I will definitely be reading more now instead of just 1 book a year or 2 books a year. And that will be in addition to the videos and blog articles and the podcast that I already listened to for my own self-development. But I want to challenge you guys to do this. Would you want to try this? Leave a comment down below if you want to try something like this. And if you like this challenge video, why don't you check out this one where I tried to make 5 videos a week for 5 weeks right over there. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.